Hello and welcome to the Screen Chronicles. I'm Colby. With me as always is Steve, and today we're joined by a very special guest. You may recognize him from works such as The Parent Trap or Son of God, but if you're watching or listening to us, you will definitely know him as Ealdorman Odda of Devonshire. Simon Kunz, welcome to the Screen Chronicles.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming on, Simon. We're huge fans of The Last Kingdom, and we loved Odda on The Last Kingdom. He was one of our favorite characters. We thought he had a really awesome arc throughout the 2 seasons he was in the show. But how are you doing today? How are you feeling today?
Today, I'm feeling great, actually. It's good. Yeah, it's a good day. Things are sort of looking up a bit after this terrible time we're going through. So, worldwide. So, but it feels like, the green shoots of recovery are, there. I've just been for a walk in the park, freezing my ass off. But the crocus are coming up, the daffodils are coming. It just makes you think, come on, this is life is good. We're okay. So. Good. So that's the vibe I'm on, particularly today. So you caught me on a good day.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Like Steve said, we absolutely loved you in The Last Kingdom, but we're also curious about how you got into acting.
Wow. I think I knew from quite an early age that I was attracted to doing the stuff that I went to see, either in theatre or in cinema, and certainly on TV, but more in cinema and theatre. I think I remember being taken to see the film Oliver when it came out in 1959, when I was about 7 or 8, and I remember being absolutely blown because all those kids were in Oliver. All the big numbers, and there's loads of little kids doing it. And I thought, wow, that's. I think that's literally. I honestly think that's where the seed was sown. And then I think as I sort of grew up, and I went to a very good school which had a really good dramatic kind of reputation. They did a lot of drama there because they thought it was a good thing to do, which it is, I think. But whether you want to be an actor or not, it's a good thing for a developing person to do because it gives a great confidence. It gives you, the ability to, to talk in front of people. He says, sounding more like Woody Allen by the moment. But I mean, I think it's a great confidence builder as a tool, drama, as a tool. Great thing. And I got really into it, and and then I think come that sort of time when you're big, when the hair starts growing and all the nose gets bigger and all this going on. I remember we had a great English teacher who didn't let us touch Shakespeare until we were about 15, just when you needed to do it for what they had O-levels then, because he didn't want that thing of putting kids off when they're 11 and 12, giving them something like Midsummer Night's Dream, and they all go, I don't get this, And we had Julius Caesar, and it was just this incredible, political, exciting kind of story, written, in 1601 or whenever it was written, and something that, and then I was very much influenced by the playwright Harold Pinter, who I absolutely worshipped. And I remember I went to see a production of a play of his, and and the two of those things came together. I remember it, the sort of the Shakespeare and then the very modern and the very old, as it were. They just went bang in my head. And I just thought, do you know what? This is something, and I was doing a lot of stuff at school, and I liked, the English. I only really liked studying English at school. It was only really the only subject I had any interest in. And I just thought, well, let's have a go. And I read well, and I got rhythms. I enjoy that. I enjoy the language. And I just took it from there, really. And I didn't go to drama school. I didn't train as an actor. I wanted to go to university, so I went to university. I just did loads of shows there, and I just thought, well, you just do it. You just get better by doing it. Right. I mean, slightly arrogant maybe or whatever, but I mean, there is a sort of, there's an element of that. Really, you got to think you can do it.
Absolutely, you got to have that confidence, right?
Confidence, exactly.
Yeah.
And then I did loads of shows there, and I formed a theatre company with a couple of friends when I left university, and we did some shows. We did the Edinburgh Festival. We did a few small venues in London, and then then back in the day, you had to become a union member to act. There was the equity because it was a closed shop, and so there was all that going to trying to get an equity card. So then I worked backstage at the theatre to do that. I worked on a tour where I was building sets and understudying. You know, so I saw it from every angle, which I'm just so happy I did, because, you know, I know how a theatre works. You know, I know how a film works as well now. But originally, you know, you start in the theatre. I mean, some kids these days, I think, you know, they pretty much go straight into screen acting without a theatrical background. But I very much theatre was always like the thing. And so, you know, I've made sound tapes, I've designed costumes, I've painted sets, I've put sets up. I did all that kind of stuff, and I loved it. But my first, and I directing as well. I love directing as well, directing and acting. I love that whole thing of just trying to find out what's going on here, what's going on in this scene, is it fun? But you know, what's really happening? Let's try and get that out and make that understandable to somebody watching it, you know, and hopefully, you know, hit them in the head and the heart. So yeah, and then I just from university I kind of went off and, you know, I got an agent, and then I just worked in the theatre, and then started doing a bit of TV, and then started doing a few films, and it's just like that really. It kind of there's sort of cause, you know, you meet people and they go, oh, yeah, and then you really go, yeah, and that sort of thing. It's that path. I didn't train as an actor.
Gotcha. Oh, interesting.
I don't know.
Sounds like you just dove into it.
Fancy going to a place where everyone was an actor. I liked being. Maybe I found that threatening, or maybe I just didn't want to do it. I didn't do it. So
interesting.
Where I went in. And here we still are. We're still hanging in there.
Absolutely.
So we both first. I mean, well, I first saw you. I think Colby. Did you see Parent Trap before?
That was probably the first thing I ever saw you in.
So, but
right. Yeah. Oh, that was great. I mean, that was I mean, what a gift. I mean, actually, that was a good story. Well, in a sense, it was a good story. I went in for a one-line part in that. I met Nancy Myers and Charles Shire in London. They were actually there in London, and you know, for like a one-line part. It's the photographer. There's a scene when Elizabeth, Natasha Richardson's character, is getting a wedding thing together, and there's a photographer just goes up like that, and there's a bit of a montage, and that was it. So I went in and I read my one line, and then they kind of both sat back and, would you like to look at a different part? He's kind of like a butler at ballet. Would you like to look at that? Go away for an hour, come back and have a little look. And they gave me the sides, and and I went away, came back, and I did a read for them on a few scenes, and they were like, okay, like that. And then they went off, and then, you know, that classic thing, you don't hear anything for a few weeks, and then suddenly the agent said, yeah, they want to offer you Martin, the butler. Wow. Okay. Great.
That's awesome. My girlfriend told me I have to tell you that's her favorite movie of all time.
Oh, well, great. So you know, it's charming, it's funny, and it is, you know, actually really quite funny, and it's quite emotional. It's got that whole, it's a proper family movie, and it doesn't really date in a way. It's kind of, you can play it now and it still works, you know. I mean, it's not too of its time. I mean, the story,
some of those movies do,
it's very wholesome. It's a wholesome.
You think about that story, it's kind of like Greek, you know, they split up and they take a twig each, and they don't tell each other. What the flying heck is going on there? Don't dig too deep. You know, you have to kind of go, okay, this is the story about coming back together. But I mean, no, I'm proud of that film because it's obviously given a lot of people a lot of pleasure. Absolutely. And you know, it's not, nobody got hurt.
We'll ask if it's the same of The Last Kingdom as no, but
Lisa Lohan was this extraordinary 11-year-old.
Oh yeah,
all of energy there, and she really was. I mean, she did such a great job in it, and it was. And for me, you know, I was brought up on watching. You know, all the great movies when I was a kid. There would always be something on a Saturday afternoon. Right. I remember seeing my mum and dad would be saying, you know, he'd build the actors' names. So I know all the old actors' names, and, you know, because my dad was well into them and stuff. And then going and then working in Hollywood, finally, when we got there, and working on the, what's now Sony, but it was MGM. So we were working on one stage where they shot the flying monkey sequence.
That's crazy.
In Wizard of Oz. We were on that stage.
Wow.
And you were just like soaking that up. It was just a fantastic sort of, it was like, and sort of from working in Britain, which is fantastic.
Right.
But then you go to LA and the film industry is this kind of, it's this sort of chrome plated beast.
Right,
just,
right.
Coming down coming down the middle of the lane right at you.
It'll eat you alive.
It's so vast over there, and you're used to sort of huddling together in a leaky wooden shed in Britain. Slightly overplayed, but I mean,
right.
It's a hugely evolved beast over there. And that town runs on that, and the music industry that's LA, and it's entertainment city. So it's amazing. It was amazing being up close and personal to that. So and fantastic education.
Yeah, I think we talked to Rune about that because he was in Captain Marvel, and I know you also had an appearance, I think, in Captain America.
Yeah, that was shot over here.
Yeah, but he was talking about that change of going, doing a film in the U.S. and just the scale.
Yeah,
that was
vast. The number of people literally standing around. I mean, I guess it may be different now. I mean, this is
sure.
We 97 we were shooting that, so that's bloody hell. That's a long time ago now. But I don't know how a lot of things have changed, probably, plus the pandemic. I don't know how it's affected that. It's just vast. And, they have budgets like, well, they can just get a photographer in for it and just spunk 10 grand on him because they because they didn't like the other guy.
Right.
So, yeah, great. Really fun.
And then how did you then become involved in The Last Kingdom?
Well, it was just a regular casting call, but I suspect that Chrissy Skins, who produced the original 2 seasons, had a hand in it because I'd worked with her on a couple of things before. And so I think I was on her radar, as it were. And so, I was got in for a casting with her and Nick Murphy, who was the, I guess, showrunner, you would call it, who's the originator. It was his baby. And I just did a read, and my friend David Dawson, who I'd worked with in the stage, actually.
Oh, really?
We did a show together a few years back in London. And so I knew him already, and I saw him then. I went, "Oh, yeah, what are you in for?" He said, "Alfred." Good luck.
I mean, they couldn't have picked a greater Alfred.
He was great, wasn't he? He was really good. And actually, it was great because, a lot of my stuff was with him. So we had a kind of relationship, and we had that. We really enjoyed doing our stuff together because it was, I think he enjoyed it because he liked that friction between us, and also the sort of support, because they kind of go in and out from each other, those 2 characters.
Right.
I just went in for a read, and Nick Murphy's great. It was all very relaxed, and he was very sort of, his whole take on the style, which was really nice, was like, well, what I'm interested in is, here's the script, here are the actors. Let's get in as a space and let's see what you want to do, and then I'll try and see where I want to, like I think that's how good directors work. Really, they make the scene work, and then they say, well, okay, where can I shoot it from? As opposed to, which you get a lot of the time, you come in and there's the setup, and you think, I've got to fit into the frame.
Right?
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes
so are you saying it gave you that kind of creative freedom a little bit?
I think so. Certainly, kind of. Well, when we got out there, you're looking at the builds as well, because they had fantastic builds for the interiors. Yeah. So you had, when you were in a banquet room, it was a huge hallway. I mean, it was big, but obviously a lot of scenes are actually they're actually quite small. It's like the mistake a lot of people think about Shakespeare. They think, oh God, it's not actually. It's just people talking to each other, and actually that's where it all comes. The setting happens to set it off, make it totally maybe sometimes, but we would get in the so anyway, so I got into it like that, and then they offered it, and I was like, fantastic, because I mean, what a great, I was used to playing, you play coppers or lawyers or sort of in your suit, and and then suddenly you're 1,000 years ago, and you're running the country, which is not even the country that you know yet. And so I found absolutely thrilling, just as completely as an imaginative thing to just go into a different world, a different set of way of seeing the world and belief systems, morals, everything, punishment system, all that whole area of how the world was, or certainly how Britain was then anyway.
Sure. And are you a fan of that history and that time period, or were you before going into this?
A fan? I was aware of it, but obviously I got well into it from getting involved in that project. And the fascinating time about that period is that Alfred really brought what we now call Britain out of what was literally the Dark Ages.
Right.
That was the thing, because nothing was written down. There was no history. The Romans left about 400 AD. And there was about 400 years, 350 years, when which is why they call it the Dark Ages. Very little was written down. So we know very little about that period. The Romans buggered off. We broke up their central heating systems and went back to painting ourselves blue, probably. And right, that's it. And so suddenly, and then I think, I don't think it was as sudden as Alfred. I think there was probably a move towards it. But of course, then there was the whole. We could get into a whole thing about the history, which I did find amazing. But there was the belief system which changed, because Christianity came in.
Right.
Obviously Constantine had it in the Roman Empire a bit, but actually it wasn't really here as such. Certainly not in the kind of the rural parts. People still were, worshipping, fertility gods, the gods for the trees, for the crops. It makes sense. You're worshipping the land and the sun and the things that give you how you live. That made a lot of sense to me. And actually, I kind of felt that Odda had a touch of that that he kind of, because Christianity, like any kind of organized religion, certainly back then, was a way of ruling the masses. It was a kind of a power tool, as well as I think for Alfred, it was a proper belief, but it was also a way of power, of exerting some sort of power and control.
Absolutely.
And so, but I always had a slight inkling that Odda might have a little shrine to a kind of, maybe a war god or sort of a power, some sort of fertility thing, or some sort of gods that still have some pull towards it. He would certainly toe the Christian line, but Christianity was very different. A very different thing. There was none of that. There was none of that suffering on the cross. Christ presented as being kind of very powerful on the cross. Right. It was wasn't the kind of, oh my God, these weeping people at their feet. It was more like this kind of, almost like a superhero kind of thing. Not trying to belittle it, but that was the iconography, which I found fascinating. That period was that he was very strong looking guy, was this kind of, you see these kind of carvings, and he's not at all like this. He's kind of like, I'm going to live again. And it's like a kind of, and you kind of thought, well, yeah, I can see why the Vikings might buy into that, which is what they had to do in order to create their little bit of Danelaw, which was the eastern side of Britain, where the arrangement was made, where they could come and they say, okay, you can come here, convert to Christianity, and they I think they sold it as it was a powerful thing rather than this thing of feeling guilt. It's not a Catholic religion. This is like, not guilty. As soon as you're born, you're guilty of sin. It was more to do with the power, I think.
It's interesting, and
sort of that sort of approach to it, which makes a lot of sense to me.
And I'm so glad you brought that up, because we were just as getting ready for this talk. I said to you, Steve, I was like, I wonder if Odda has like a hint of some of the old pagan beliefs, because there's a small scene when you guys go to Cookham to see Uhtred, and you and Alfred are talking about the pagan hall, and he's just bashing it, and you're kind of defending Uhtred slightly, not because you don't want to piss Alfred off.
I think
and you say they were the gods of our forefathers,
exactly. Yeah, exactly right. Actually, I'd had that. They gave that line came. Yeah, that was something that they happened to write. But certainly, before I even started on this, I just thought, And there's a great novel I read, which is just a brilliant novel, which is set slightly later, but it's written from the viewpoint of a guy who lives in the Fens, which is like north of London. Do you know the Fens, Lincolnshire, right up there?
Okay.
And Unity, and it's set in 1066.
Okay.
And very much the old gods are still alive. That's what I mean about certainly in the cities. So Winchester, London, that Christianity, that's the power base. But back in the countryside where you are growing the crops, when you're growing the wheat, you don't give a shit about Jesus and all that. All you want Woden or wherever to say, yeah, you're going to get, the sun's going to come, you're going to get the rains at the right time. That's the most important thing to their lives. And I think Christianity, it's a long period that it took really to take hold, as it were. Sure. And then, of course, the French came in and, they biffed us and they hung around for a few years. So, so it's an absolutely fascinating period, which is why the project was just really exciting, because it's the birth of what we call Britain now, really, because it wasn't Britain. It was like loads of different states, Mercia.
Right.
Remember any of them? What they call Wessex?
Yeah.
Cumbria, the Welsh, all this kind of stuff. The Cornwallen, and the West Country. Yeah. So fascinating time. So really interesting to do that.
You had mentioned Nick Murphy earlier. We had a chat with him before too, and when we spoke with him, he talked a lot about when he started the show, he wanted to have a lot of younger actors on for making up the show, just because people just generally didn't live very long during that time period. But you were someone who came in with more experience. What was it like for you working with some
more experience? You were old.
No.
No, it's okay. Yeah, no, I get that. Well, I think, yeah.
What was it like for you though, working with some of these casts who this was like their first big project?
What was lovely was that it broke a lot of young British and wonderfully Scandinavian who came in, and I think that also was just absolutely a genius stroke. It would be so good to have Scandinavian actors playing the Northmen,
because that doesn't always happen.
But it totally worked, and it was just apart from anything else on set, it was great fun because they come from a completely different. So you had that thing. They have different rhythms. They have different sort of. Alex Drayman himself. I mean, he is American German.
Right.
So he has this kind of in between kind of accent, which I think worked quite well for that character, because is he English? Is he?
I think, or is he
perfect. British? Is he from the Northmen or what? So he has that kind of that's his whole struggle in the whole thing. But no, it was great. There's a few young actors like Harry McIntyre, and Eliza Butterworth, who was with my agency as well. And for them, it was for everyone. But it must have been great fun to go and strap swords on and practice fights and just go, oh my God, yeah, we're living a different life. It's a completely different world. So yeah, there was a great, and I think Nick, he was right. It wasn't a lot of familiar faces in it. There were a few, hardened pros, and then there was a lot of new faces, which is great, because then you don't know who everything's new for the viewer then.
Right.
You don't, because sometimes you invest too much in the face that you know too well.
I guess so. I think you're right. Yeah, that can happen.
You kind of go, they're a certain type or whatever. So yeah, I think Nick wanted to do something. It's not new. It's not a new idea, but he wanted to make sure that it was a new way of doing. And he didn't want anybody saying these and thous. He wanted it very chatty, the dialogue. Right. We were, you would feel that you could change words. You could make it so that it was, sort of. You didn't want to make it sound like we're speaking Old English or or Shakespeare. Or my lord, I must, So we never say my lord. We'd always just say lord. I mean, because it was just like, because you think, okay, that's a way of delineating somebody's status, and you say lord, and you might defer or whatever physically, but then you cut to the chase and get on with the dialogue, sort of thing. And so then you get, I think it helped you get a lot of quite sly humour as well. I mean,
totally.
you know, you get characters who are just sort of, you know, being a bit snarky, like Ethelwald, or people commenting a bit and going like that, or Beocca, you know, the priest kind of being kind of actually quite sort of really down to earth and not at all, not priesty. Do you know what I mean? And of course, priests in those days, they you know, you weren't celibate or anything like that. None of that nonsense until much later.
Right.
Yeah.
And you talk about down to earth, because that's the vibe I get from your character in the show. I mean, times when he says, you know, you're about to go into the battle, and he says, I know each of them. And he has this sort of connection to his people, which I think helps us connect to him a little bit.
Yes, definitely. He's got that. He's a politician.
Right.
I mean, he's a very powerful man. I mean, back in those days, obviously, it was about owning land and people, if you like. On your land, who, you know, but I think he was a good landlord in the sense.
Exactly.
I think he wasn't like a, you know, he wasn't going to go and what's the droit seigneur, you know, the thing when the landowner could go and basically make love to the wife or something, you know, because that was his right as the landowner. He didn't do any of that.
No.
I don't think he was just like, well, if you treat them well, you'll get a good return, sort of thing. I think it's that sort of thing on the land. But he was a politician. You don't get the power by accident. You know, he liked the power. I think he enjoyed that, and I think he had a certain not pompousness, but what's the word? I don't know.
Assertiveness.
He enjoyed the power. He enjoyed the power.
There's no doubt.
He enjoyed being right-hand man, because he was, of course, the previous king's right-hand man. Right at the beginning of the first series, when Alec Newman, who played the previous king, and he sits down and they're obviously old friends, you know, and the king says to him, "Look, it can't be Ethelwald, it can't be him. It's got to be Alfred." And okay, all right, don't worry, I'll make it. Then of course he gets killed, and then Odda is part of that push to get Alfred made king. So Alfred is kind of. He sort of owes him a bit for his support, I think. You know,
absolutely, that's a great point.
And that kind of bond is made, but Odda is elder.
That's true.
Well, actually, you should listen to me a bit now, sort of thing. And then Alfred, of course, has to kind of a bit like, you know, in Shakespeare, Henry IV, that, you know, when he hits with Falstaff, and then he has to go, I have to push you away. I have to be my own king. You know, I have to be my own person and make my own thing. You know, but yeah, I think Odda is a touch of vanity, just a touch of vanity.
Sure.
You know,
you
what I mean?
probably couldn't get to the position he's in without it, right?
You don't get there by accident.
Right.
And you maneuver to get there. You know, you kind of make your choices and you make your moves, I think. Yeah.
And his son got it from somewhere. I mean, his son got it from somewhere. I'm not sure how his son got so bad, but
I think I don't think Odda was the best dad.
Right.
I think he was quite absent. And I think, lovely Brian Bonnell who played Odda the younger. I don't think, I mean, I was reminded very much of the sort of, I don't know if you know King Lear, the sort of Gloucester Edmund relationship there, the sort of the son who just has been kind of, you know, absent. The father's been a bit absent, and then who'll kind of maybe take the piss out of it in public a bit, and so you can see that a resentment might sort of build up there. You know what I mean? Because Odda, of course, did like a drink as well. That's the other thing. He did. He liked a bit of whatever there was, and so you can sense that there might have been slightly less emotional involvement than a modern parenting, or you know.
And speaking of the drink, in season 2, it seems that he really turns to the ale.
Well, he killed his son.
That I was going to ask you. No,
what was that scene like? Because that was such a huge scene for us. I mean, that's what really got us in the show, was just the twists in it, the history, the culture, and so like one of the biggest twists, killing your son.
Political expediency, but Jesus, yeah, exactly. Well, I think he knew. I mean, kind of in the way that he sort of eventually does himself in at the end of season 2. He kind of he can see what's going to happen, and it's not going to end well. So he kind of, again, rather sort of, if you like, too much power there, really. But he didn't want. I mean, how do you how do you go there? He can't have it come back on his position.
Right.
So he takes the move. I mean, it's a horrible move, but they were brutal times. But that said, it played well for him. Well, he thinks it will, even though Alfred really pushes down on him at the end, because he goes, right, look, he kind of goes, I've done this for Wessex. Everything I do is for the state.
Yes.
I mean, he's the ultimate politician, pragmatist, whatever. So that was the reasoning behind it. And then when he's done that, I think he can't sleep very well. And I think he dreams of it every night. And so the booze becomes a bigger part of his life. And, I think that is one of the things which Alfred picks up on. And that's when really, the kind of divide starts coming in. Because first part of season 2, I had very little. There was lots of standing around going, yes, Lord, no, Lord. And then they built a really brilliant ending for him throughout that thing where you actually, that whole division when the daughter is taken, Ethel fled.
Yep.
When she's taken and he's like saying, well, I did it with my kid, maybe she needs to go.
It's such a great point.
It's like Spock, isn't it? The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
And like
it's that's the take. And it actually, in Cold Light of Day, it's absolutely the right take.
Absolutely. And
emotional breath.
It's like, I already did it, man.
I did it.
I made the sacrifice. Exactly. And I love the scene where you're talking about, you're looking at the paintings on the wall and you're like, look, all these people sacrifice their lives. You bring the guy in and say he lost 2 brothers, 2 sisters, and his wife.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And then you bring up the point, I did this, I made the sacrifice.
And then eventually you go, right, okay, I'm off. I'm going to go and I'm going to get my army and I'm going to go and take these guys on and we're going to do this. Yeah. I'm going to force your hand.
Right.
Then he has to go.
Yeah. And I think the drinking thing makes for a good, like, you let things slip at the late nights at the tavern. You're letting these little, I think so they water down the ale so that they can't pick up their weapons, but they must, or something like that.
Yeah.
It's just,
I don't know if that's true. I love the idea. I didn't do it. I didn't really research that, but
okay.
I love the idea of that. Yeah, no, it's he's made his decision.
Totally.
He's not comfortable with it. I mean, not comfortable with it, but he's just, man's got to do what a man's got to do.
He's got to do. Absolutely.
But that's the great thing about that kind of show. That, I mean, I guess any show, but the stakes are just so high because it's about the nation. It's certainly in his head. It's about, I've got to do what's best for the country.
Absolutely.
I'll die. It's like, he's kind of, he's Harikiri or whatever. I've got to do it. I've got to fall on my sword, but I'm going to do this before I go.
Absolutely.
Did you know you were coming back for season 2? Because Odda's arc that I love, when I read the books, that wasn't even in it, and I was just like, so I was wondering, was it even planned?
No,
originally?
I didn't read I didn't read any of the books. I started reading the first one just literally to read what Bernard Cornwell's description of Odda was. I just wanted to see how he described him. But I didn't want to read the books because I thought ultimately it doesn't matter because you're going to get a script and you can't turn up on set and say, well, in the books, like this, and I don't want to do that. I want to do like the book. And then you say this point. I didn't. I mean, I hoped to do season 2. I hoped it would go again. Mm-hmm. I thought it would, and then got the call for season 2. And then I got the call halfway through season 2 saying, you're buying the farm in this season. So I went, okay, that's cool. 2 seasons, that's fine. I don't want it to become, to go on and on and on. And it was, I was very happy with the character and what they gave me. Crescendo to each season was actually
totally
Odda based, so I can't really argue with that.
And you could make the argument that he saved Wessex twice.
Well, I would make that argument. That's exactly the argument I would make.
I think Uhtred says that at the end of season 2. He said Alfred won't write about how Odda saved Wessex, but that's the story I will tell, which is awesome.
There was a real Odda.
Yeah, absolutely, and we're going to ask you if you did any Did you find anything on that person, like getting ready for the role?
Only that he did command when Alfred, I think, was in hiding. He commanded the armies in a decisive battle against the Northmen in Devon, I think, or Dorset, or Devon. I think it's called Kainwit. Or something.
Yeah. The one from season 1, right? Yeah.
And and the commander of that army was a guy called Odda, by all accounts. So I think he is sort of that character, but he's also not that character, because he's not the greatest commander of army commander, which you see in season 2. I think you sense that he's more of a politician than an army man. He's not physically, he's not a kind of great fighter. Which obviously I had to downplay because I'm an immaculate
right.
Like Zorro's got nothing on me. But I mean, they made Odda that he is a little bit indecisive, militarily speaking. But he's around. He's got Leah Fritsch, and he's got. Just only in season 1, and he's got the other guys. I can't remember all their names now, but he's got some people to put ideas off, even though they're all a little bit anti his way of thinking. But then of course Uhtred saves the day and goes in and does that great raid in season 2, and they go and blow up all the shit, things like that, and kind of he makes and turns it in Odda's favor, as it were.
Yeah, and you have that great moment with when Alfred confronts you there in the dark near Beamfleet at the end of season 2, when you say, it's for Wessex.
Yeah, it's never for me, always for Wessex. Yeah, and that is actually, that's the first hook you have for that character. Really, that's literally, as an actor, as you approach it, you go, that's where it begins and ends.
Right.
That's Alpha and Omega for him. That's it.
Yeah.
So, and then you build everything else out, sort of thing. But
And then after that scene too, after you run into Alfred, Uhtred comes running. You tell Alfred he needs to call the shield wall, and you do get some battle beats there at the end of season 2.
I do get a bit of a
What was it like to be in a shield wall? That's awesome.
Well, quite fun. It's great doing all that stuff because you're in the field in the middle of Hungary. Nothing else around. It's the middle of the night, and everybody's wearing weird clothing. But you got
sounds like a Tuesday,
Yeah. There must be. No, it's incredible. You're just there because you look around you and you are surrounded by it, and it feels right. And dear old Chaz Bain, the cinematographer, who's great, lovely, great to work with, and Simon, his folks, but they're a brilliant team. They're all a great team. It was just making shots look great, and he would always make it exciting and fun to do. I'm blathering now, but no, it was good fun to do. Being in the shield wall, pushing through, standing there, walk back. Great. You were really there. You were really doing it. That was really terrific. Enjoyed it a lot.
That's awesome. Another moment we absolutely love. There's a lot of moments I feel like with Odda where you just don't know what way he's going to go, And going back to that Battle of Kainwit, when you're on the hill and you're waiting to see what does Uhtred do. Does he fire the ships, and your son's whispering in your ear one thing, but you've given your word? Could you maybe talk a little bit about, that scene and your approach to that scene?
Well, I think there's probably, he is really caught there. He's really caught there on the edge of what he could go either way there, I guess. But I think, as he said, he's got to, it's just a classic bit of storytelling, really, isn't it? You've given the hero, you just give him that bit more time, and it just adds a little bit more to the tension, I guess. If you've made the wrong move there, honestly, I can't remember the approach.
No, that's okay.
Yeah.
What I remember was that Brian and I started doing mixing in the middle of that. We started pretending DJs when we were off camera. Make Chaz Bain laugh a lot. We were going, rewind on that scene funny. A few times, because I think there was lots of clasp action going on.
Oh, right, yeah.
We love that scene though, just when he does just decisively like, we'll go, or whatever it is.
Like,
and
attack, we attack.
that was just so awesome. And before that too, we were talking about Rune Attempt Day before we started the podcast here, and you had a scene with Alexander Draymond, Leia Fritsch. You're going and you meet the Danes, and you have Rune Attempt Day, who's this massive dude just yelling at you guys about pieces of weasel shit. What was that like?
He was great because Rune, there was no such thing as, well, there was such thing as a script, but I mean, what I didn't mean that is a compliment. That is not in it. Because he'd just give you stuff and you just reacted. And obviously, he is a big guy in real life. He's a big guy, and he just looks fantastic. And he's just got that way, that sort of Gene Hackman way of kind of just smile, but it's not a smile.
It's like, I'm going to kill you.
And he would often just go at you in the middle of when you're doing your take. And so you just respond to it, and Odda, as I say, I didn't feel that I think he was a coward. No. And not a weakling, but he, when you're confronted with something like that and you just don't know what's going to happen in this situation. And he, and of course, Thomas Gabrielson, who was he was playing the king, I can't remember the name now, but who was great, who was much calmer. And, Rune was like his kind of, his attack dog, if you like, his kind of ace in the hole.
Right.
Of sheer, we're just going to let rip here, unleash the dogs of war sort of thing. So Rune was just always alive. That's what I meant about throwing the script away. He was just so alive, and it was great to be with because he was just this fantastic other energy. You just never knew what he was going to do. So anything that happened, you just had to be ready for something that Rune would throw at you, which is just fantastic because that's cool. It's great. And so you get proper reactions and comedy. You get a nice kind of comedy.
That's the nice thing. There is comedy in the show, and when he screams at you guys, it does seem like a very natural. The 4 or 5 of you there just back up. Like, whoa. Okay.
How do you deal with it? I mean, how do you? There's no playbook for this, really.
Right.
You just do it on the fly, and you just try and pour a bit of oil on the water and whatever. But it's just it was great. It was very alive. I mean, it was the same with a lot of the actors. Actually, it was very. Especially, I have to say, a lot of the Scandinavian actors, they had a great sort of that's a different rhythm and a different kind of energy they would bring, and it was just fantastic. And I think it really translated well on the screen. You just get that otherness. It's just, they were other, and they came in and they sort of they melded with the people. I mean, the ones who came and basically. What we call the Vikings, which is the North, they wanted to come because they had more fertile land.
Right.
Their thing and raise their kids and do that. They just wanted they didn't want those craggy, fjords. It was a bit stony and hard and stuff over there. They just wanted slightly warmer.
Yeah. There's an awesome shot of you two at that battle going down the hill, like with full chainmail. Going, was that real chainmail, like heavy or? It
was heavy. It was chainmail. No, it was pretty heavy. I mean, that was a lot of there was a lot of running down, and then there was a lot of fuck. We got to climb back up now and do it again.
Can't we get this in one take?
Very sweaty, but also the other thing, I remember sitting on horseback because it got pretty cold. I mean, the thing about Hungary. It's landlocked, so it's one of those countries where it's really hot in the summer and really cold in the winter. When we're doing because they would shoot seasons, you'd either do the summery kind of shoot, and then it would be down for a few months, and then it would go again. So you had the wintry shoot and the summery shoot. So I did 2 seasons. So I had a hot shoot and a cold shoot.
Right.
And the cold shoot, Jesus, it was cold, and you'd be wearing. And it looked like we were wearing loads, but actually what you had on was like, you had your kind of a thermal vest.
Okay.
And a sort of a bit of sacky clothy type thing with the chainmail, which is obviously just holes all the way through it. Yeah. And the winds would whisper
just
through.
Cold metal.
I remember sitting on horseback next to Brian playing my son at one point and watching him turn blue. We were on horseback. We had to do this just trudging out of Winchester down through the thing and then reset. our hands, we could barely hold on to the reins. And the wind was whistling through. I mean, the capes, they didn't really, it was just kind of linen. It's not like skins, or leather.
Yeah.
It was kind of, so it was just racing through it. So we were just, could barely speak, not that we didn't have to speak, we just looking at it like this, hands like claws, because they've been holding on to reins and you couldn't straighten the fingers because they were so cold. But it was, I'm not complaining. It was great.
No, of course.
I mean, why you do these kind of jobs is just to be in odd places at odd times doing odd things, It's just, the moon's a balloon, as the David Niven said. It's just like you're doing this thing, and there's a big balloon of light hanging there for moonlight, and you're running around.
That's cool.
You just kind of, if you wake up at some point, you go, "What the hell am I doing here? Isn't this great? Isn't this brilliant fun? Aren't I lucky to be doing this?"
That's so cool.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
Unfortunately, though, Odda does die at the end of the second season.
They die.
And how it happens is that he ends up taking his own life instead of being, I think, publicly executed or something like that. Instead,
it would have been a trial, and it would have been all that arraignment, and I think he just thought, no, I'm going to do the old Roman, fall on my sword, and again, it kind of harks back a little bit to that sense of him being in touch with the old times, in the sense more of being your own master. And he was such a powerful man. Yeah. And I think the real Odda was similarly a big landowner, a very powerful man. I mean, you had to liken it to, I mean, it's not, no, that would be the wrong analogy. Somebody brought down, but for doing kind of the right thing, but it was kind of treason. I can't think of an example, but also kind of a great man to a certain extent, a great statesman. Be like Winston Churchill to a certain extent. If he slightly sold the country wrong, that's a wrong analogy. But yeah, I just think he felt I'm going to be in control of my own destiny here.
Yeah.
I've had a good life.
Yeah.
I've been chucked out. I don't want to go back to just living in Devon.
And that's
my wife.
Oh, with your wife.
That was really why. Hey, man, I was like, you don't have to go back to your wife here.
To your wife. They cut that line out, I'm sure.
I know, my poor wife. I'll kill our son and I kill me. He's just sitting there, I don't know, knitting down in Devon.
Odda's like stern look after he says that, like, maybe I should do this.
No, but he's married to the power. I think he's married to the power, and he's married to the state. And he just thinks, well, I'm out of both now. I don't really have anything to live for. I've had enough.
And your death is sort of poetic. That I think you use the same knife. It's your knife, and in the same kind of spot as you stabbed your son, the kill shot there. And then your death is so intimate, like that. The scene of you doing it.
Yeah, it's really, and Chaz Bain was really helped me in that scene. Actually, he gave me a great note, and it made the scene really work, I think. And I love the way that it's Ethelwald that brings me the knife as well. It's kind of like, hey, I'm helping you, but it's got that great kind of duplicity which he was so good at. So it was kind of poetic. I'm glad you thought that. It had a kind of, the wheel has come full circle.
Totally.
And it's my time, and so I'll take it, and just want to end up looking up at the light and where am I going to go? And I'm not thinking about Jesus.
No. Can't be.
What was your approach to dying there? Like, so how do you approach that so you're not just
it's a very physical scene.
Yeah.
Well, as I say, Chaz gave me this great note, which was because I did it once, and then he said, there's a great thing that I think he said, the kind of the body does something great. Try and make the body do something slightly of its own volition. That it's not. You're not saying like that. That it's something in your nervous system. So I thought that sounds so clever. And I just did a very slight. There's just a thing, just a very slight tick,
subtle,
a little kind of thing where you just think, that's the chord of life is breaking there.
Right.
And that is a mortal blow that you've done. You've done it right. There's a kind of thing of, oh, are we going to do this? Yes, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. Do you prepare, you're breathing, and then you just go, fuck it, do it. And you do it. And then you think, oh, and then there's that moment. I don't know if you've read Wolf Hall, the Henry Mantel books, which is all about Thomas. It's a wonderful, because Thomas Cromwell, who was Henry VIII's advisor, who is eventually executed. But in the end of the book, there's this great thing where you're kind of within his head as he's dying, sort of thing. And it's just this great sense of, well, how do you react to a knife, pushing a knife into yourself? What thoughts go through your head, literally? And at what point does the body take over from your consciousness, in a sense, and go, I'm checking out here, sort of thing.
And
so
what would you say some of Odda's like final thoughts were in that moment, would you think?
Oh, that's a good one. I think really it's it's something to do with, what was I thinking? I was thinking, do it. You've got, there's nothing more for you here. There might be something for you. There was a little light,
right,
like as if there were a window in the thing, and I just thought, if it was a Viking death, which it would be, I'm going to that now. That's what I want to go to. I just spoke to Ethelwald about how did my estate look, and he says it looked beautiful. I'm like, right. I'm going home. I think that's what I'm thinking. I think I'm going home. There's nothing for me now. I'm basically a depressive, I think. The booze, the killing, the thing. I've lost my power. I think I'm going home. That's what I thought. I think it was something like that. I'm just going up there. I'm going up there, and I'm going to see what the afterlife is like. Where do I fit in there? Maybe I can start running that. Maybe I'll get in with St. Peter. Oh, not St. Peter, but whoever. Oh, Woden. I'll get to be Woden.
Yeah.
But it was a great little moment. So I was really pleased with that.
Yeah. I also love the moment when early in the show, when Ethelwald comes to try to claim.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And you say, there's all these people around. It's a very tense scene, and I think you say, on which occasion, because
yes, that's right. You're really right. And then they did a lovely reveal on that, because the director said, "No, I just want you to sort of just appear a bit like kind of almost like Nosferatu just coming out." Because all you've got is you've got a lot of monks, haven't you, or priests around the dead king. And then Ethelwald comes and talks to the dead king, going, "Yeah, well, great," and things like that. And then it becomes apparent that Odda has been part of those ranks, and he just turns around and goes, "That's interesting." But that was lovely, and it was lovely playing with Harry, because he's just such a great character to play with. For that great sort of Odda's great sort of maturity and sort of disdain against this kind of weaselly, unconfident guy, guy who's been downtrodden as well. He's been downtrodden, so he's rather. That's why him and young Odda have that kind of affinity, because they have fathers who weren't there for them, really. I guess. Yeah. That's a kind of very quick, psychological, but it holds a bit of water. Yeah. So so that was great fun. Yeah, nice little reveal. Yeah. Just trying to think of anything else. I'd have to, as I say, it's been 6 years. It's been going on, but I haven't caught up with 4. I saw 3.
Okay, yeah,
but I haven't done 4. And then I don't know when 5's coming out.
March 9th.
Okay, I will try and get up to speed, because I've got a couple of other chums who are in it. Adrian Schiller, who I think you may have.
We had him on. Yeah, he was great. Yeah, he was great.
Who we actually worked with. You said Son of God at the beginning of this, but actually, that was what was made out of a TV series, which was rather grandly called The Bible.
Oh, okay.
But Adrian and I were in that together. We were playing, we were playing the New Testament stuff, where he was the Caiaphas, the guy who basically judges Jesus in it. Yeah. And so, and now I don't know what's his name, character in this.
Nicodemus.
Oh no, he was Nicodemus. No, I was Nicodemus.
You were Nicodemus. Oh yeah. In Last Kingdom. He was Ethel Helm. Ethel Helm.
Ethel Helm. That's right. I think it was Ethel something.
One of those Ethels. One of the
Ethel.
One of the Ethel. Ethel?
Ethel?
Yeah. But no, Adrian's great. Lovely actor. So yeah, I've got a few chums in, so I must catch up with it. But you know how it is. I don't sit around watching TV much.
Right.
Yeah.
What are you interested in? What do you watch? What do you read, or what are some other things then I guess you draw inspiration from, or
I'm currently actually reading Crime and Punishment, which I have to say I'm really enjoying. It's one of those books. It's one of those books that's been on the side for years, and I've just gone. And of course, it's like a lot of these things. As soon as you get into it, it's like, oh my god! Now I know why this is a great book. I don't know. What have I been? I don't know. I love a thriller. I like a spy thing. I love le Carre, stuff like that in terms of reading. Watching, yeah. I mean, we love. Oh my god, Ozark, stuff like that.
Oh yeah, I just finished Ozark. We love Ozark.
Oh my god, don't say anything.
No, we won't.
I haven't seen the new season either.
I love Bateman.
He's so good.
His delivery and his kind of calmness. In fact, I'm just about to go off and do a film playing an American sheriff. Nowadays, a modern police thing. And I look at Bateman and I think, yeah, that's the sort of calmness I want to try. He's great. That sort of everything's on him. They could tell
him like the most catastrophic news, and he'd be like, yeah, okay. Well, I'll see you later.
But that pragmatism again, that kind of pragmatism, he just starts working in there. I love it. So we're loving Ozark, and I don't know, Christ, I don't know. Anything that's got a great hook. We don't watch a lot of. I say we because I talk about my Caroline, my partner. Generally watch stuff together. What have I seen that's good lately? Went to the pictures the other day. Oh, I watched Nightmare Alley.
Oh, I haven't seen it yet. Was that good?
It's quite fun. Yeah, it's good.
Okay.
I mean, they go for the noir. It was a noir. It was Tyrone Power, I think. Originally.
Have you seen the original?
I haven't seen it. One of those films.
It.
No, but I'd like to see it. It's crazy. It's got a kind of it's Grand Guignol noir. Willem Dafoe's great, and
okay, I'll check it out. I think it's on HBO now.
It's worth a visit. I'm not sure it entirely worth, but it's really good. And Del Toro, always interesting to watch the movie. It's just fantastic. But I like a lot of the old sort of British thriller series as well. Edge of Darkness, the old, Smiley, the Tinker Tailor, all those kind of very understated. It's all done with very small stuff. Why le Carre is so great. I love le Carre because it's not James Bond. It's not. It's all about whether they left a chalk mark on a bench, and do you know what I mean? It's very small. Game, but it's absolutely thrilling. You just get totally wound in. It's not things going off. It's all about the human psychological approach to it, which I just think is great. So I love all that sort of stuff. Well, we all do.
Yeah.
Now a bit of Crash Bang Roll-Up's great every now and then. A bit of popcorn fat, but for a roller coaster ride. But you want to get inside here and here, really. That's what it's.
Yeah.
Now, earlier you mentioned the sets of The Last Kingdom, and how cool they were. And one I wanted to mention was that we see it a couple times in a couple critical scenes is Lord Odda's estate. I love that setting.
Oh my hall.
I was like, Lord Odda lives good. He's living, obviously he's a powerful man, but
he's a powerful dude. He's got a nice. They had a jacuzzi out back, which
they did, right? Yeah, I assumed.
No, that was a great hall with those kind of two staircases that came down into it, and no, that was beautiful, and that lovely scenes with. I loved doing that with the Mildred. She was my
goddaughter and
my niece or something.
Your goddaughter, I think.
Who married Utrecht? Do you remember?
Yes.
She married Utrecht, and it didn't really work.
No, it did not. No. She was a little too pious, I think, for him.
Really float the boat. But it was great. I mean, that was just an extraordinary build. I think it may have been a version. I think they did a rebuild on something that was there, but there's this whole area just outside Budapest where there's this town. There's this town. I think it probably has been used on other shows, and they just slightly up. But they did some complete new builds for somebody's hall.
For Alfred's or
all down in Cookham, things like that.
Uhtred's Hall, and
I think so. I think that might have been a new build, but they just did extraordinary things. The craftsmen out there were just amazing, amazing. The set builders and it was wood. It was real. You know, you felt you were there.
That must make it easy to just flow into character.
You're in the room. Right. You're in the room. And the camera is you kind of don't see the camera, which what Nick Murphy was great at was that it was just, you never were, I mean, okay, sometimes they'd be in tight, you know, you have a bit of a close up, but a lot of the time it'd be on a long lens and you were just behaving in a room and he'd catch what he wanted to catch. And so it wasn't, I think as it went on, it changed. It did get a little bit master 2-shot close up, a bit, formulaic, slightly damning, but you know what I mean, it kind of normal, if you like. Whereas I think in the early days of it, he liked having a camera that could move and that could be behind, and if you had a line, you didn't even necessarily have to be covered on camera. It doesn't matter as long as you heard the line,
right?
He would, it wasn't like anything against the actor. It was just like, well, this is actually where it's at, and that's what I want to show. You might be in shot, you might not. It doesn't really matter. What's important is the story, and I want to catch that reaction or that reaction. You know,
I think it helps you feel like you're there in the room,
very
natural as you're watching it.
I think as an actor as well, it helps you feel that you're not having to really hit a mark and feel. Because when you hit marks, I don't know. It's very. You know, it's quite. Sometimes you find quite difficult to keep it alive somehow. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
You feel a bit nailed to the spot sometimes. With some directors, and some directors, they're much more easy going. But maybe that's just me. I just feel sometimes, you just get a little bit. It can do something to you physically sometimes. Thinking, I can't move. Or I shouldn't move. But you know.
Now, we talked about how Odda, much of season 2, is inebriated. He's at the tavern for much of it. Is that difficult to play that, or were you using a method approach with the?
Well, I wasn't drinking.
I'm just kidding.
So I was pretending. Method. Well, I mean, I know what it's like to be drunk, so I can remember that feeling. Now, I mean, it's always. I mean, one of those things about acting drunk. It's one of those sort of things that actors kind of chat about. You know, it's quite. It's not hard, but it's to be sort of convincingly drunk. Whereas actually, all you're doing is actually trying to do something very well. But your body is slightly letting you down, or your brain's slightly just back. So, and we've all slurred our words a bit. So I think his drunkenness was really actually because I don't know if I should say that. But what I'm saying is, when the reason that you're drinking is really because you're kind of numbing a kind of a pain. I think a lot of people drink because it's fun, but actually a lot of people do it to kind of forget stuff. And I think Oddas had that thing where he had killed his son. So there was a lot of kind of existential pain for him, I think. And I think that was one of the reasons that his drinking escalated. I think it's the main reason, actually, that his drinking escalated. He's a slight break. And also he got badly wounded at the end of the...
That's true. That's true.
So he's also carrying quite a lot of more injuries apart from the things he already had.
The scars, you got some massive scars.
Yeah, the big one across the face.
That was a mistake. Anyway, my lovely makeup artist LJ, she's just brilliant, and
that's awesome.
You're like, okay, let's do that, and put it right down. What you got, and I've been with those drunks, is that after the initial elation of the high of the booze, you get the sort of, you go into a kind of loop somehow. You can go, if your mind actually, so in a way, drinking is the worst thing to do, to take your mind off the thing you're trying to take your mind off, because your mind will eventually go back there and it'll be even loopier. It'll be even more going around, more, if it's like if you get stoned and you get a little bit paranoid or something like that. And then actually everything's about the thing that you're trying not to think about, in a sense, or things that come up. So, and that's the thing, because actually what you're after is that first hit. is where you feel great and you feel like, yeah, that's behind me. I don't think about that. But as you go on, and it comes back in, and it's actually more. It's almost like a sort of existential tiredness or ennui. If you like,
Yeah. Interesting.
You know, and so I think that's where Odda was at when he was in his cups. He was thinking, I've got this big thing to do, I've got to do it. Oh, I don't want to think about it. And then you drink, and then you go, oh, I feel a bit better. And then you think, oh, all I can think about is that now, which is why.
Interesting. Yeah.
Why when he says to Uchid, he says, I've got a plan. He's just being put to bed, I think. He's going,
then you wake up next to World's Strongest Man.
Don't have any plans, man. This is not the time for you to have plans, okay? Stop.
I think we've all said that to friends before.
I'm going to raise the fjord.
Steve, no. Steve, you're not.
Exactly. I know. Going to raise an army. Yeah, good idea.
Yep. And then you go cuddle with Magnus Samuelsson a little bit. And
yes.
That was funny.
Former World's Strongest Man.
Yeah, nice scene. Loved that.
Yeah.
And then he had a little chat with Uhtred where he goes, no, I can't remember what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's off to do it.
Uhtred does not buy it. He's just like,
no, he doesn't buy it. Thank God. You know, but I was right.
Now, looking back at the show, are there any moments that you consider favorites of your own from shooting or any scenes?
What started the project was great. There was such a great level of excitement. Also, I had a guy and your friend who was on it, Adi Bauer, who played Leofrich, who's just great entertainment and great to be had on set. And I got it was great getting to know people like Ian Hart as well, who plays Beorka. Actor I've always loved his work, and just great to get in with people like that. So for me, because I was, I think like most actors, I don't know, they go in thinking, well, I haven't been found out yet, and you're in with it, and you see these actors that you love work, and you go and you're working with these guys, and, women, and you're going, oh wow, this is great, So that for me, to beginning and working with these great Danish and Norwegian and Swedish actors who just that was exciting. So I loved all that. Specifically, I mean, from freezing your ass off on the horse and then getting back to the hotel, having the hot bath and just go, oh God, thawing out, things like that. I can't think of Japes on set. There was there was lots of fun just playing of the film game with David Dawson. We would always, doing the thing about, when you go, when you say, you name a movie, then the next person's got to say an actor from that movie, then the next person's got to say a movie with that actor in it, a different movie. And you go around and go around and you can't think of, it's like 6 degrees of separation.
We got to try that later, Steve.
No, it's really.
It sounds like fun. Game. That sounds like fun.
Yeah.
It had a rude word. Was the name of it, because if you lost, you got a letter of that word, and when you had the full, you were out.
Cool.
Is it
we're definitely going to play that.
Is it the word the British people can say, but we're not supposed to say here in America? Is it that word?
Well, I'll say it. Wanker.
Oh,
we can say that.
We can say wanker.
So you get a W-A, and then when you're a wanker, you're out. Sort of thing.
There's another word we can't say.
I thought it was the C word. We're not supposed to say a C word over here.
Oh, I see that. Well, causation.
Yeah, that's it.
I know what you mean. I feel it's getting back in favor these days.
I like it. I like
it. It
sort of rolls off the tongue. It's.
But I'm not going there.
No, I'm not going to make you say it. But so, what were some of your favorite things about your character Odda?
I liked the relationships he had with his son. I mean, I didn't. It wasn't a great relationship, but I loved that way that he kind of looked down his nose. That was fun with Brian. It was great because he's just this kind of malignant presence. God, he's wrong. I enjoyed doing all what research I did just into the period, into the that whole. I loved the power of the man. I loved his slight vanity. I loved his pragmatism. I love the fact that he could be sometimes a bit square and not get the joke or something like that. I don't know. I just loved being in a completely different world with him. Just a completely different time.
Cool.
That was the best thing, really. And being with a great bunch of people, just playing make believe.
Right.
having fun. I mean, having fun and working bloody hard as well. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. It was. I'm not saying it was tough, because it's not tough compared to a lot of other jobs, but it was. You know, you felt at the end of the day, you thought, wow, yeah, put a day's work in. So that was. You know,
and as the fans, we appreciate that from the actors so much, because the show feels real, it looks real, the acting seems real, and we know how hard you guys work to do that. And you and the original seasons 1 and 2 cast, you guys really laid such a great foundation for what's still coming out. And the movie that's going to be coming out, it's really, you guys set such a nice tone.
There's a movie coming out.
There's going to be this 5th season, and then they're going to do a movie as well.
So they announced that season 5 was going to be the last season. There was sort of an uproar from the fans because they were going by the books, and there's 13 books, 2 seasons per book. So it was like, wait, that doesn't add up. We're missing
2 seasons per book. Was that the way that was working out? So they were looking for 26 seasons.
2 seasons per. Or no. Sorry, what did I say? Two books per season.
One season.
Oh, 2 books per season. Okay, so they wanted that last season. Okay, right. Okay,
other way around.
So they're going to do like a movie to finish off, as it were.
We think so. We think that's what they're going to do, like the last 3 novels.
Yeah. So I guess that would be like a Netflix film, which they might give a cinema release to as well.
Yeah, I know it's going to be Netflix.
Be awesome.
Definitely Netflix. It would be cool if it was. It would be awesome cinema release. I'd love to see.
It'd be great to see, proper nice bit of widescreen. Yeah.
Yeah. They're filming the movie right now, actually. Season 5 is about to come out, and they're on set doing the movie. It's called 7 Kings Must Die, is the name of the movie.
Ah, right. So that's with Alex, I guess. And
he's on set. Uhtred in the books is supposed to be super old, even by season 4. In the books, he's like talking about his arthritis and how it's like harder to hold a sword. But I don't think they're gonna make him ancient in the show, in the movie or the show.
A little bit of whatever that stuff is that they paint on. Just a little bit of a crinkle up there.
Maybe a little bit.
Bit of a stiffness in the arm. Like that.
I mean, it's funny to read the books, and he's really struggling.
When you're about 36 in those days, you get arthritis. When you're about 36, I'm cranky here.
Absolutely.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. Well, that's great. I wonder who's going to be in that apart from Alex. And I don't know who's.
It looks like Finnan's on set, and Arnis, Mark and Arnis.
Yeah, right. So. They're career Vikings now. Well, no, they're not really Vikings, are they?
Arnis kind of, Citric was a Dane.
Irish character, isn't he?
And he's Irish.
Finnan's Irish, and he's
Irish. That's right. And Arnis is presumably Scandinavian.
He would be Scandinavian. Well, the actor is from Lithuania.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Mark's from Scotland, so.
Yeah. Is Eliza still in it? I don't know.
So Eliza's interesting because in the books, her character kind of goes off and lives in a monastery after Alfred dies. But in the show, she had a major role, and I'm not going to spoil anything about season 4. Okay. But she's fantastic. I'll just say that.
Great. I'm delighted. Yep. Lovely. Great. Yeah. Fantastic. I'll actually have to watch.
Yeah, you'll enjoy season 4. It's pretty great. And then obviously we're excited for 5 coming out. But
great stuff. Excellent.
What else do you want from your career? Is there anything else you want to get out, or any dream projects?
Dream projects. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I just like to work. I like it to be interesting work. I just want to play interesting characters. I mean, that's what you can ever want. In March 2020, I was in a theatre show, and weirdly, I was at the Globe Theatre in London, which is where the original Shakespeare type Globe. So we were doing the indoor show because it was March, so you want to be outside then, because they got a beautiful indoor theatre, the Sam Wanamaker Theatre, and I was doing a show there. Which actually Adrian Schiller's about to open in a show there right now. I'd like to do some more stage work, and I just like to, I'm not no spring chicken anymore. So you just have to hope that the roles keep coming in for people of a certain age, as it were. As I say, I'm very excited to be going to Kosovo to film this. Yeah, so
nice.
To do shoot this kind of. It's a very quite a violent film, but it's I think it's a thriller. I think it should be quite good. It's quite nice. It's quite good. I shouldn't really say anything about it, but it'll
Yep.
But it could be quite a fun. It'll be a bit of it's a genre, it's an action movie, but it's got a good central thing, I think, of, one person against ever more bigger odds and trying to get through that. So it's got that rather than it being just, Goose just going like that. It's got a woman, the woman is the central character, and she's trying to fight against unsurmountable, it seems, kind of odd. Got that kind of push to it, which makes it more interesting, I think.
We'll definitely be on the lookout for that, no doubt.
But I just want to keep working. I just want it to be interesting. Great. Maybe make some stuff. Try whatever. Just hang in there. As Barry, somebody said recently, a comedian over, he said, you don't retire, the phone just stops ringing. Yeah. So it's like, I'll hopefully the phone will keep ringing. So that's all I can look forward to. Yeah, that's
awesome.
That's a bit wrong, but you know what I mean. That's what you.
Yeah, it makes sense. Steve, do you have any other questions?
No. This has been great, awesome. Simon. Thank you so much for chatting with us.
Absolute pleasure. Yeah, I probably banged on a bit too much about some stuff. I mean, I'm
this is great.
Love you guys. I'm glad you're so enthusiastic about it.
We love it, and you were one of our favorite characters, like we said, from seasons 1 and 2. You really helped take the show to that next level, we think, and we only hope The Last Kingdom keeps catching that traction that it seems to be gaining constantly. Yeah, because we think it kind of deserves to be. I mean, it's already a very big show, but we think it kind of deserves to be that like
Game of Thrones
level.
level.
That like I
really think it can hold up.
I never watched Game of Thrones. It never interested me because I don't. What I loved about this is that it's kind of real.
It's what we love about it.
Really based on reality. Game of Thrones, kind of anything can happen.
It's fantasy. Yeah.
I don't do Tolkien. I don't do that kind. It doesn't float my boat at all.
Right.
I much prefer the fact that this is a political show. It's got
it's got everything.
But it relates to my country as well, and it really about.
I know. I feel like Steve and I get patriotic about it, even though we're not from there.
No, England.
You kind of are from.
My ancestors are. Yeah, I know my ancestors are, but like,
where's your ancestors from?
I have some ancestors from England. I'm 80% Irish though.
Right.
So I just got my DNA results.
And the other 20% Scottish.
I know, 15% Scottish and 5% from Britain. So I have a. But I'm from like 100% that small pocket of the world, apparently. Where they came from before that, I have no idea.
Right, who knows? Well, Africa. But
probably.
Yeah. We all came from Africa.
We all did. Yeah. We all did.
Stardust, of course, but there you go.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, Stardust.
Right.
We do what we like, we cover what we like. The Last Kingdom has always been our favorite show. And, when COVID hit, I think we just had the idea, that nobody's busy.
Is this that when you started doing this? Is that only
2 years ago? Well, we started the podcast before that, but we started having guests on. Harry McIntyre was our first guest with the phenomenal talk 2 years ago about, I think, right, Steve?
Right. Yeah, it was 2020. We started this just to stay in touch because we met in PA in Erie, and then he moved back to New York. I was staying in PA, so and we just wanted to talk about our favorite stuff, and it just Last Kingdom is our favorite show. Yeah, and that's why we've really just dug into it then.
And we feel so fortunate to be able to have people like you on and pick your brain about your experience, and it's a treat for us, and it's. We've gotten a lot of listeners from it. It's time anyway.
You're from PA, did you? Oh, hello. Where are you going?
Yeah.
Frozen. You from PA?
Yeah, I'm from Pittsburgh.
My grandfather was from Allentown.
No way.
Yeah.
What? Yeah, he came to this. He was a musician. He was a very famous pianist who came over from Allentown to London. He made his career in Britain.
So your ancestors went kind of the other way.
His parents were German, so
that's interesting. So
they came over, and then he came over to Britain. But he was born and raised in Allentown, PA.
Yeah.
Have you ever been?
I've never been to Allentown.
You'll have to make it someday. I mean, at least go to Pittsburgh.
You might be let down, but it's.
Well, by the way, you might want to see this.
I do. Yeah.
This. I should have mentioned this earlier.
Yeah.
This is my Odda doll.
That's amazing.
Oh, look at that.
which I'll say but Julia, who is a costume person, made it as my farewell gift.
It's even got the clasps. Oh, it's beautiful.
I meant to show it earlier, but that's lovely Julia who made that. Who was my one of the costume.
That's great.
One of the dress. He's just.
Oh, we love that. We love that.
Figure. He does everything. He can pontificate. He can even sword fight. Anyway, good.
That's awesome.
Very nice. Okay, guys. Well, look, lots of love. Okay.
That sounds good. All right, Simon. Thanks so much. It's been a pleasure.
Bye.
All right. Take care.